Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by guitar-zoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to guitar-zoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
And again, there's a tempo, there's a speed, all those things, but the first thing I need to do is make that connection. Now, to summarize this, because I don't want to take way too much time here, I could do this exact same thing with 1 to 3, with 1 to 4, and dig these, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, and 3 to 4. And these are crucial because when you play guitar, most of the time people spend time on strength of these two fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or the first finger with any combination. When you get to these guys, this is where everybody starts suffering. When you get to these guys, this is where awful things start happening. These aren't developed enough. So you don't just always want to grab your guitar and go, okay, I'm done, right? You want to be able to get into the thick of the ugliness of some of these. Or you see,
that would look hard.
It's learning how to do those things. And again, I'm not focusing on speed at this point. What I'm focusing on is synchronicity. And I saw some people even mention this. It's left and right hand synchronicity. The way I think about this, and I talk about this in the guitar course, but for me, my left hand is my fretting hand. My right hand is my picking hand. If you play swapped over on the guitar, then it would be different for you. But I have to develop strength and stamina and speed through legato exercises with my left hand.
Mm-hmm.
I have to develop the availability of being able to pick, alternate pick, down pick, sweep, whatever it is, hybrid pick, economy pick, whatever it might be with this hand. And then I've got to learn how to meet these two in the middle and make it work. That's what playing is all about. So it's not just picking. You might be able to pick incredibly fast, but if this hand isn't strong enough to keep up, it's not going to make any difference. So it isn't always just about speed. It's also about connectivity, which I keep talking about during this thing, but it's important. Okay, you've got to make a connection with your fingers to your pick to be able to do these sorts of things before you ever worry about how fast you're going to go. So those are really great two-finger exercises that you can do that aren't overly complicating. They don't have to be fast. And I know I'm kind of running through it, but we don't want to be here for 3 hours. So, but understand that those are your exercises: 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. And then I just set my middle finger down. You could, go to whatever fret you want, but 2, 3, 2, 4, and then 3, 4. And you just practice all those. That stuff will set you up for three-finger exercises. And that stuff will set you up for 4-finger exercises, because 3 fingers are just 2 combinations of 2. 4 fingers are just 3 combinations of 2, right? That's what you're doing every time. So the more you develop the independence in all of those fingers, I'll do a lot of things where I play, if you're playing diatonic scales, for instance, right? When you play stuff like that, you're playing groups of 2, right? That's how all this stuff works. So I've got to develop these finger combinations for them to be able to work individually, let alone collectively when I start putting them together.
It's awesome stuff, man. Guys, today we're talking about picking perfection. And it's an essential technique that you absolutely need to know. Picking will help you in every aspect of your playing, and doesn't matter if you play acoustic or electric or blues or rock or anything in between. Picking is something that every guitar player needs to know. If you're just now joining us, guys, thank you for being here and welcome. Let us know where you're from. We're about halfway through, a little over halfway through right now. Steve, I was wondering if we could take a minute and maybe answer some questions that people may have. Hopefully we've got some, let me just check real quick to see how they're doing. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of questions. So guys, look, we're going to try to answer as many of these as we can. If you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube or some other platform and you're watching this, just post your question right there wherever you are in the comment section. Also, if you're joining us late and you're like, man, I can't believe I missed half of this, don't worry. We're going to take all of these videos for you and put them on the Guitar Zoom channel in a nice, tidy playlist. And it'll be called something like Essential Techniques. And but right now we are live. So please answer or ask us any questions that you have regarding picking. That would be awesome. And if you'd like to learn this style that this technique that Steve's talking about here, stick with us until the end. This whole entire thing today is about picking. If you want to learn it even faster, check out Steve's new course. It's called Essential Techniques. It's available at GuitarZoom. Steve, if you could, before we go into the questions, do you mind if I share your mind map of how you create courses with people?
Sure.
Do I have? This is going to be cool, guys. This is actually the behind the scenes stuff that we really don't share with folks very much. How do I do that? Share screen? Okay. So when Steve actually creates, Steve, let me know if you can see the mind map.
Hold on a second here. I can't hear you then. I'm not sure why.
Oh, I see like a million of me going everywhere. Let me unshare that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that.
So if I click, let me try again. Share. Did that work? Can you see it? No.
There it is.
You see it now?
I do see it, yeah.
Guys, if you can see the screen share that I'm sharing with you right now, this mind map that Steve created on all these essential techniques, just put like yes in the comment or something. Just make sure we're good. But anyway, I was going to show you, this is the mind map that Steve actually sits down and creates his process for creating courses for you. You can see this is actually created before we even named this new course. It's just called Technique 2020. We knew it was going to come out this year at some point, didn't know when. The title of the course is Essential Techniques. If you take a look at this is the way that kind of Steve's brain works. So we're actually looking at the way Steve Stine's brain works when he's planning out an entire course. So he's got this intro discussion. He's got guitar and setup and your amp setup. Then he jumps into chords, open chords, power chords, bar chords. Then he goes into strumming and rhythm. And actually the first workshop that we did was on rhythm. So if you missed that one, just go to the playlist on YouTube or into the Facebook group and you'll be able to see that. All the different strumming techniques. Today we're actually talking about picking. And that's this section down here. And if you can see, when he was talking about the 3-minute exercise, remember we just covered that, the 3-minute exercise on the down picking only, that's right here. You'll see that one. There's also a 30-second exercise, a 60-second exercise, developing consistency. And then there's this is just down picking. And then he did talk about alternate picking, all these different harmonics and string deadening and funk strumming. There's fret hand development in this course. Then there's some other things like, for example, this thing is huge. It's 6.5 hours long. There's vibrato. There's a whole section on vibrato. There's a whole section on bends, whole bends, half bends, 3 frets, blues, unison, harmony, pre-bends, and ghost bends, double pumps, etc.
There is a part on speed picking somebody asked. So
okay, cool. Hand synchronization. So legato versus staccato. Picking through string changes, economy picking basics, speed picking fundamentals. Then there's a whole entire section just on slides. Then arpeggios, then string skipping, octaves, 2-hand tapping, a whole section on tapping. Look at all that. And then harmonics, natural harmonics, artificial harmonics, pinch harmonics, dynamic tools, guitar tone tools, sound effects, finger picking, hybrid picking, capo. You guys get the idea. This thing is massive. It's called Essential Techniques, and it's available at GuitarZoom, and it's on sale right now. If you'd like to go check that out. Steve, can we get to some questions? Are you up for that, my friend?
Absolutely. I'm just not sure why that's so weird. Yeah, I'm up for questions for sure.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please post them and let us know. Please keep it to picking, and we'll do our best to get to those. All right, Steve, here we go, man. There is a massive amount of questions on here. I'm just going to start at the top and just see if we can rapid fire some of these. So Gary says, Greg. Greg says, string gauge versus picking speed. I guess you know what that means?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have to, the most important thing is an understanding that you don't spend all of your time just speed picking, right? The strings have to be responsive to the chords you're playing, all kinds of different things as well, but you got to find a balance. So I like really thin guitar strings, but if I get them too thin, it's hard for me to speed pick because the string becomes too flexible. So I usually have to bump up like a half size from there to do my speed picking. So, it does make a difference for sure. So you want to practice all your things. Don't just go to a thicker gauge string just for your speed picking. Make sure, especially like bending and things like that, that you're able to comfortably do all of your manipulation of bends and vibrato and stuff like that at the thickness of string you're looking for.
Nice. Bob from the UK says, how to practice speed picking?
Well, there's a bunch of different ways, but obviously developing that alternate picking like we talked about is huge. But one thing you can do, speed picking generally relies on 3-note per string patterns. So just super quick one you can do that, it's a Paul Gilbert staple that every shredder on the planet has learned, including myself, which is you go anywhere on the guitar, but let's just go to the 12th fret. I'm going to play 12, 13, and 15 with my first, middle, and pinky. Alternate picking. And then I go to the 12th fret of the first string with an upstroke, so I'm going down, up. Again, just down, alternate picking the whole time. And then I go backwards. And you learn to develop that technique because when you play scales, that's what you're playing. Oftentimes it's 3-note per string. And if you can train your hand to simply do alternate picking the whole time, it doesn't care whether it's starting a string on a down or an up because you train yourself to simply move your pick back and forth.
Nice. Chris Sherwood says, what about keeping fingers from touching other strings?
Well, sometimes you want that to happen and sometimes you don't. Like if I'm playing and I'm soloing, okay, I often want to touch all those other strings because I want to deaden them out so they're not making noise when I'm playing. Mm-hmm. If you're touching other strings, like for instance, when you're playing a chord or something, you've got to think about the angle of your wrist, the angle of your elbow and your shoulder, right, to be able to get that, even the angle that your guitar is at, whether it's up or out, right, those sorts of things, to find a way that feels most comfortable so you're missing the strings that you don't want to touch. Like if I'm going to play something like that, let's say I'm playing 5, 7, 9, and then open. I can't be at this angle. I'd be touching everything. I've got to turn under to be able to give myself room to be able to reach that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Martin says, Steve, do you consider the material used for the pick, nylon, Tortex, etc., does it change the sound?
It definitely changes the sound. I don't pay a lot of attention to that, to be honest with you, but it does. I find the most important thing for me is finding a pick that feels good and is very responsive to the way that I like to pick. And the material that it's made out of really wouldn't make that much difference to me personally. But does it make a difference? Absolutely. I'm just lazy in that department because for me, everything comes down to how it feels. More so than like when I buy a guitar, I don't even pay attention to what the body is made out of or something. It's just if it feels good, I'm in. And that's kind of always been my thing. But do they make a difference? Yes.
Awesome. Andy Lopez says, what gauge strings do you recommend for beginners to intermediate as they strengthen picking and other techniques?
Well, I think a good place to, and everybody's different, but I mean, obviously a good place to start if you're tuned standard is just start with a standard old 9-gauge string. Mm-hmm. And then if you need to go thicker, like I'm only 5'2", so I don't play the game of trying to use 11-gauge strings and all that kind of stuff. I just want to enjoy myself. I just want to enjoy playing.
11-gauge.
But awesome. Like I had a student in my guitar classes that he's like 6'7". He's a big guy. He probably doesn't have 9-gauge strings on anything, right? Because 10 or 10.5 is probably feels like a 9 to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody's different that way, but if you're just an average sized person, I think nines are a good place to begin. And then try things. I always tell people, keep the wrapper of the strings that you bought. So next time you go in, if you think, I'm going to try something heavier, you know what you bought, you know the brand, you know the gauge, you know everything about it. And you can just go into your guitar store and go, these are what I had last time. I'd like to try something a little bit heavier. And they give you something, you go home, you try it and go, I love these or I hate these. And if you hate them, go back to what you had before or try something else. It's a journey.
I love it. Matt says, my natural tendency is to hold my pick with my middle finger. Is that a bad habit?
Well, again, you need to work with what works best for you. But for me, I use these other fingers for stuff, whether it's switching my toggle switch, whether it's rolling my volume, whether it's hybrid picking, using my pick and my middle finger at the same time when I play. Those are crucial. If I was holding it like this, I don't have that finger available anymore. And I don't know what I would do with that finger, So, right. And that's the same thing with people that say, well, can I put all my fingers on there at the same time or whatever? Again, whatever works for you, but understand that the more you grip, the tighter you do this, the less you're relaxing. And the less fingers you have available for other things that you might be using those for.
Got it. Here's one, Steve. Anything I can do to practice picking accuracy without my guitar in my hand? I'm at work most of the day.
Well, there's a couple things you can do. I keep looking around because it used to be in my room, but it must be upstairs in my suitcase. But I have this little thing called a shred neck. It's about that big. And I bring it on airplanes and different stuff like that. And I use that to practice with when I do my alternate picking or when I do my legato stuff. Different things like that. It helps more than nothing. Like, just sure. Sitting around, trying to do things like this, that's more for strength and flexibility and things like that you can do when you don't have something with you to practice. From a technical perspective, like actual picking and things, you can work on stuff like this. But if you didn't have something for me, that's when I'd work on visualization of my fretboard, a scale on my fretboard, or theory. Like if I don't have something with me, those are things that I really love to work on. Is I'll just take a piece of paper that's got, some mode written out on it, and I'll just sit and study it. Or I'll listen to a song and I'll sit and analyze it. Like that kind of stuff is stuff I do when my guitar isn't in my hands.
Nice. Lane says, do you recommend anchoring your middle or ring finger or both on the scratch plate?
I wouldn't recommend it, but if it happens naturally for you, then that's what I do. I don't float like a lot of people do. I don't float. I have a tendency to stabilize with my pinky or with my third finger. They kind of trade off depending on which string I'm on. But I do that, but I have a lot of friends that don't do that. So I think, again, it depends on what feels best to you.
Got it. Matthew says, will Steve be covering the technique of picking while also finger picking with middle and ring fingers? So I think the question is, do you cover finger picking in the Essential Techniques course?
Well, I cover finger picking, but what he's talking about is hybrid picking with two fingers along with the pick.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I talk about hybrid picking with the middle finger, but not with the middle and the third finger, just the middle finger. Most of the players that I watch and things like that, they have a tendency of using the new modern way of playing with that middle finger along with a pick. But we do talk about finger picking as well in the course. Got it.
This is a good one. Aaron Henderson says, what is your recommended beats per minute for initially starting with a metronome? 60, 30?
Well, I wouldn't go way too slow. I mean, if you go so slow that you can't feel it, it becomes really hard, right? Okay. If I was to go to, let's say I go to 80. I go. Now remember, you're trying to click 2. Done. So you always want to feel a reaction. It's like throwing a ball and having it come back to you. 60's fine. When you start getting down to 30 and things like that, it's really slow. And understand, the first thing you have to do is you have to make sense in your head of what the tempo is trying to tell you. Before you ever grab your guitar and your guitar pick and start playing, you need to hear that action and reaction of that, what we call eighth notes. Click, click, dun, 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 dun. And you've got to make a connection to it. Grabbing your guitar is not going to help that. It's got to be a concentration thing. You've got to hear it and even visualize it. And then awesome. You grab your guitar and you start playing along.
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to guitar-Zoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to guitar-Zoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
But again, even that takes time. Just learning how to play and hear at the same time, separating your thought process to be able to act and react at the same time, it takes time.
Awesome. Steve, there's a question. He says, I hope it ain't shameful to ask, but I still don't know how to hold a pick correctly. Would you please demonstrate it?
Sure.
I think a lot of people don't.
And again,
so
I can only
no shame in
do
that.
as best as I can, but basically if you think about it, if I was pointing at you and I put the pick on my finger and I was pointing the pick towards you, so I'm pointing at you and the pick is pointing toward you, right? And then I turn that pick, I turn my finger in my pick, I'm just holding it on top so it doesn't fall, but I turn the pick and grab on. That's basically how I hold a pick. I hold the pick with very little pick sticking out the end of the pick. I don't hold the pick in the center. Okay. If you use, like I saw a couple of people mention Jazz 3, if you use something small like a Dunlop Jazz 3, then I'm holding it mostly in the center because the pick is smaller. Mm-hmm. But I have smaller hands. If I grab a regular size pick, like these are picks that I use, and they're a little bit bigger size. I've actually learned over the years to I used to use Jazz 3s for years. For 15 years, I used Jazz 3s exclusively on the road and everything. And then I kind of went back to a larger size pick, not a real big one, but just kind of a medium sized pick. And I tend to grip closer to the end of the pick. But I do it by, again, pointing the pick toward you, pointing the finger toward you, and then grabbing on top. And then I'm ready to go. I'm just grabbing closer to that tip of the pick.
Awesome. I'm totally going to butcher this person's name, but I'm going to try. It's Aftab Latif. He says, I just purchased your course. Looking forward to start practicing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your guys' support and your support in particular. I do want to mention, guys, if you decide to get Steve's new course, Essential Techniques, it's at guitarzoom.com. Please come back and tell us what's the one thing that you want to learn from it. Why did you decide to invest in the course? And what's the one thing that you want to get from it? Because it just takes one big aha and it makes it totally worth it. You know what I mean? We're covering just one section of this thing, which is picking technique today. But there's lots of other topics in the Essential Techniques course. Let's see. Hey, Steve, have you found it better to use wrist more? I'm sorry. David says, have you, Steve, found it better to use wrist more for fast, accurate down picking?
Yes. For me, yes. It's different for everybody, but for me, it's very much, it's like this. It's not this.
Got it.
It's this. I don't know if you can see the screen, but just real quick, I have Harshada's message on here. It says, I feel demotivated nowadays in playing guitar, even though it's lockdown going on and we have plenty of free time to play. I couldn't stress more how important it is, regardless of what's going on in your world, to stay motivated. The thing about technique and all the stuff that we're talking about is these things are essential, okay? But balance these things out with things that excite you, things that inspire you. Maybe it's writing a song. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if everybody's going to hear it, right? Have fun. Remember why you grabbed the guitar in the first place. Keep reminding you, especially when you get older like me, right? Remind yourself why you grabbed the guitar in the first place. Stay motivated. Maybe learn a song. It doesn't matter whether it's a hard song or it fits into whatever. Try and throw those parameters away once in a while and just remember to enjoy yourself a little bit. You've got to stay motivated. Maybe motivated means listening to a new style of music or a new album by an artist that you like. Or maybe it's trying out a different style of music that you've never done before. Or maybe it's not even playing guitar. Maybe it's just watching some videos or a concert of something that, you know, I mean, with Van Halen's passing, it's been so tragic, yet so many of us have gone back and went, man, that was good stuff, right? It was good stuff. And you look up a concert from, 1985, right? On YouTube, and you're watching it and you're like, man, it's good stuff. That's inspiring to me. Think about those things.
Jamie Williams says, how to strengthen the third and fourth finger. Steve, I think I'm just going to turn that back over to you. Guys, we already covered this exact same thing. The only reason I'm bringing this up, in case some of you may have joined us a little bit late, please, we're actually live right now, so obviously we can't go back in time. But at some point, these sessions that we're currently doing for you, this workshop on techniques is going to be available on the YouTube channel in a nice, neat playlist for you. So you can go back and watch the entire thing. But we covered this exact question just a little bit earlier in here. Maybe Steve will show you the shortened version of it. Or do you want to, or not, Steve?
Sorry, I was reading another question I'm going to get into. What is
just how to strengthen the third and fourth fingers, basically.
Well,
your
this
finger
is a
exercise
legato thing, right? This is a legato thing, but a great way of strengthening your third and fourth fingers is to do legato exercises. And again, we go into all great detail in the course on how to do that. But you start learning to develop independent fingers. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4. And then you use 3 combinations, like you might be doing 1, 3, 4. But strength doesn't come from picking. Strength in the picking hand comes from picking. But strength doesn't happen because you're doing finger exercises with synchronization. Strength comes from legato exercises. That's where your strength comes from. That's why you develop this hand and you develop this hand. Once you've developed those, they can come together and start working together. But if you're struggling with strength with your third and fourth fingers, it's not just going to go away because you're adding a pick in, right? Mm-hmm. It might soften the blow a little bit because the pick is able to kind of do some of the work. But the more you strengthen those fingers, the easier the whole process is going to be.
Yeah, there's an actual, I'm looking at the mind map, which I shared a little bit earlier, that Steve created, that he used to develop the course. There's an entire section just called legato techniques. So it addresses that exact thing that you're talking about right there. So if you're having a problem with that, essential techniques, the course will definitely address that. Joey says, when I do alternate picking fast, the pick sometimes sticks on a string. How to overcome that?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. That's a very common thing. You might think about your pick angle, your down-up pick angle, right? Like, let's say I'm doing 3-note per string, for instance, okay? So I'm just going to be in A major here. So if I was to angle the pick downward, like this, understand when I do down, up, down, when I finish that down, the pick is already sunk into the guitar, right? So now if I need to start with an up, I need to pull it back out to get on that up. And that's oftentimes where you'll get stuck. If I angle the pick upward, it's free. So I can do that up. So a lot of times the pick angle is going to make a difference on whether or not the pick is free to move to the next string or whether it gets stuck. Now, for those of you that know what economy picking is, if I angle it down, this is a nice thing when you're economy picking because I can go down, up, down, down, and push through. And there's a lot of players that do that where they economy pick. So it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. If I was to do this upward, that's not going to work. Right? I'm going to jump over if I do that. So the angle of the pick is relative to the way that you're trying to pick. So think about that a little bit.
Love it. Al Key says, can you comment on fretting hand wrist angle on low frets versus upper frets?
Fretting hand wrist angle on low frets versus upper frets.
Yeah.
Well, the angle is usually pretty brutal when it's down here, especially when you're short like me, right? And you're playing. When you move up, I don't know that the angle, well, I suppose it does, but I don't really know how to answer that. When I move up here and start playing, the angle is entirely different because my hand is at an entirely different angle to begin with, right? Where when I'm down here, I'm sitting more at this sort of angle to reach this. When I come up here, I'm sitting now at this angle to reach these things.
Right.
So, the one thing I will say is be sure you've got some space here if needed to be able to get up in here to be able to play. If you sit playing like this, it's hard to get up in there and you run into your body, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't really know what I could say about the wrist, because my wrist is constantly changing. Even if I'm sitting here and I'm playing like this, and then I go into a chord, and then I go into a blues thing, my wrist comes up. So my wrist is constantly in motion no matter what it is I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you, Steve. Question from Lorraine. She says, do you have instructions for acoustic guitar, or would this course apply? In other words, I think if I'm an acoustic only player, would essential techniques
again,
with this course be apply?
There are a lot of elements out of this course that would be acoustic only. A lot of these things that would apply to both acoustic and electric, but there are some things that I think would probably be more specific to electric just because of the style that it is. But for me, when I grab an acoustic guitar, I play it the same way I play an electric guitar. There's just certain things I can't do on an acoustic guitar because I'm not good enough, right? Where I do them on electric, they feel better. But when I grab an acoustic, I don't grab an acoustic guitar and play differently than I do on an electric guitar, other than the fact that they feel different. And there are some limitations on the acoustic for me, simply because I use, I'm a rock guy, so I tend to use a little distortion, things like that. But the majority of the course would be good for anybody, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Peter says, I've been playing since the 90s when strict alternate picking was all the craze. I find it difficult to revert to economy picking. This becomes problematic when incorporating sweeps. Any advice?
Well, there's two ways you can go with this. Number one, you either don't change what you're doing. And let me just explain this. When I was a kid, everything was legato picking because that's what people did back in the 80s, right? It was a lot of legato until like Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert and stuff came out. There was a lot of legato stuff. I was a big Iron Maiden fan, so Dave Murray and Adrian Smith would do a lot of legato, that kind of stuff. Randy Rhoads, all those kind of things. And then when alternate picking became a big deal, I had to relearn how to play. Now my playing is very much a trade-off between the two. I don't do one. It all happens kind of subconsciously, right? But I don't spend more time. Here's how I should say this. I don't make myself feel bad because I'm legato when somebody else is somebody else is picking, right? So let's just get that out of the way. The second thing is if you want to learn how to do sweeping, other than the fact of doing a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs, you just got to get in there and grind. You got to get in there and you just have to start learning how to do it. Even though you do a lot of alternate picking, you just have to practice. And the easiest way to do that with sweeping is start small. Just start with just a 2-finger thing. And then, just start developing small little elements before you start worrying about big sweeps and things like that.
Guys, we are bumping up on over an hour now, and still we have everybody's still hanging with us. So apparently you guys are into this, which is super cool for me, and I think for Steve too. Before we go on though, because we do kind of try to keep these to an hour, I want to know a couple of things. One, Steve,
yep.
How are you holding up, man?
Well, I got somewhere I need to be in a little while. I have probably 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. We're going to hang out just for a few more minutes, give Steve a little buffer so he can get to where he needs to go. Steve, I want to thank you for being here, actually being live. We're doing this for the benefit of all of you. Our goal is to always provide, whenever you show up to one of these things, the very best instruction that we can, and that you walk away with something that you can go and improve your playing with. And regardless, if you decide to invest in Steve's new course, Essential Techniques, or not, we hope that you got value from this today. If you did, can you please let us know what's one thing that you got from today's session? Just post that, would be super cool. Just let us know if there's one thing that you got that would be really refreshing. Steve and I will go back and take a look at all your comments. I know we didn't get to all the questions. We did as many as we could, I think. But remember, if you came late or for any reason you didn't get to see the beginning one, or if you missed the previous one, we're going to put all of these for you on the Guitar Zoom YouTube channel in a nice playlist for you. You can go there and check it out. Everything we talked about today is from Steve's new course, It's called Essential Techniques. It's available at guitarzoom.com. It is applicable to you whether you like blues, rock, country, acoustic, electric, anything in between. There are just certain techniques that you need to know as a guitar player to become a better guitar player. And let's face it, the better you are, the more fun it is to play. So, Steve, I want to thank you again. I also want to let you guys know we're going to do another one of these on Friday. Yes? Pretty sure?
Friday. Yep.
Yeah, Friday. Friday's coming up. The guys posted the topics, which I can't find right now because there are so many questions. But anyway, it's going to be a super cool thing. Do you know what the next session is, Steve? I don't even know.
I think the next section was either songs or soloing. I don't remember which one it is.
Okay. Well, it'll be on technique. That's what we know. And thanks again, guys. And thank you for all of you who already invested in the course. I really appreciate that. I saw a bunch of comments. People said, hey, I already got this and I'm ready to learn this particular thing. I can't wait to get started. Again, guys, it's on sale right now. Essential Techniques, available at guitarzoom.com, along with a lot of fast action bonuses. So if you'd like to check that out and you're interested in technique and improving in that, this is the course for you. It is Steve's newest one of 2020, never before seen. And so we're all super excited for you, Steve, and thanks for putting it together for us, and thanks for working so hard on it. I know it was a labor of love, my friend.
Yeah, I love teaching. I love when people learn. It's what I love most, actually.
I'll just say this because I know Steve on a personal level as well. I'll just tell a quick story, Steve. I don't want to embarrass you. Steve Stine is one of the most giving people I've ever been around in my life, and I'll give you one example. He and I met up in Los Angeles for the National Association of Music and Musicians, for NAMM.
Music Merchants. Yep.
Music Merchants, there you go. For NAMM. And anyway, there's like 25,000 people there, I think it was. It was a crazy amount of people. There's like multiple levels, and there's all different, every kind of musical instrument you can imagine. Every big brand is there. Steinway pianos had an entire floor. Gibson guitars had an entire floor almost. I mean, like everybody had their thing. And Steve and I was there with Steve, and I promise you, we're walking the floor, and we can't take 3 steps without someone saying, Steve Stine, and like running over and saying, hey, dude, can we get a selfie with you? And Steve sat and took time to take a picture with each person, to meet them, to greet them, and to have a conversation with them. And literally, I think we walked maybe, 15 meters in about an hour because we kept getting stopped, which was super cool for me to see because you and I don't get to be right next to each other in that environment. But once a year. And I was just super impressed by that, Stephen. I think it speaks to your character and how much you actually do care about people, which is just awesome. And all of us love you and thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I love the opportunity to be able to do this. I grew up teaching my whole life, and then to be able to do it on a global scale is just more than I could ask. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but your 5-minute soloing, a 5-minute video on YouTube is already over 9 million views. Every time I look at that thing, it's like,
well, and that just shows sometimes we overthink things, Sometimes that just goes to show sometimes we overthink things.
That's absolutely true.
You got to focus in on smaller elements and not try and confuse ourselves so much.
Yeah. Well, people love that video, and people love all of this stuff. So thanks again, guys. It is an honor, a blessing, and a privilege to be with you. We will see you on Friday at the same time. Anything else to add, Steve?
No, I'm excited to, I already got notes. I just don't remember which one is coming this Friday, but I've been working on stuff to teach everybody, whether it's songs or whether it's soloing. So
that's awesome. I know you got to run, buddy. So guys, we'll see you at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central on Friday, October 16th. Check out the new course, Essential Techniques by Steve Stine at guitarzoom.com. All right, guys. Thanks again. See you Friday.
See you guys.
Bye,
Take
Steve.
care. Bye.
Thank you, my friend.
Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast.
Cool.
Can you hear me,
sir? Yeah, man. I can hear you. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Good. Hopefully we fix that little weird compression thing.
Yeah. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Cool.
Well, if you're joining us today, make sure that you say hello and let us know where you are from. Hey, Edward.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, guys, just
Hey, Viv.
Edward. Yeah, let us know where you guys are from. Let us know one thing that you want to learn today, too. If you got a burning question, go ahead and post that in there. We've got a couple of people standing by to help us organize all the questions. We're going to do a rapid fire question and answer session at some point during today's workshop. Today is about playing songs and using those to develop your technique. Big island of Hawaii. So, hey, guys, as you're piling in here, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Dan Dinley. I'm the founder of guitar-Zoom.com, and this is my good friend, Steve Stine. How are you, Steve?
I am very good. How are you, Dan?
Great, man. Super stoked to be here with you once again, sir. Guys, if you missed any of these workshops we're doing, you can go check them out on a nice, tidy playlist at the YouTube channel for Guitar Zoom. So just go to YouTube and type Guitar Zoom, and the channel will pop up there. Click on that. Click on playlists, and then this will be the techniques playlist there for you.
Hey, Steve Stine here from guitarzoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to guitarzoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at guitarzoom.com.